Tribes TV is on location at the Guild of Lettings and Management Seminar 2013, and I'm joined now by Paul Shamplina of Landlord Action, well-known face to Property Tribes. So welcome.
I thought you said
Paul.
ugly face.
No, well-known.
He's got a face for radio. How are you?
Actually, I'm good, thank you, Paul, but we should say you're very busy on the TV front, aren't you? You've got a few things in the pipeline.
I've got a small part in EastEnders, and then I'm doing Coronation Street. No, not really. Actually, the BBC at the moment are all over renting and buy-to-let and lettings.
Yes.
So I did about a week and a half ago, I did the one show, which was about housing benefit tenant keeping the rent, not passing it on. That was purely because of the universal credit coming in and the worries that landlords have. And we tell it how it is at Landlord Action, as you know.
We had some very positive feedback about your appearance on Property Tribes.
Good, that's very good. And I've got a bit more filming to do. I'm doing a programme which is coming out next month called Landlords on BBC One. It's a 1 hour documentary about landlords and tenants. So that we're following one of our cases and a desperate landlord basically. And then the last bit of filming is coming out in September called Rip Off Britain, which is about subletting scams, which we've now seen a massive rise on.
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about that in a bit more detail, because it was actually a tweet from you on Twitter that made me sort of sit up because you tweeted that you're seeing this huge rise in calls from landlords who are victims of these subletting scams.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that is?
I think that in this climate, more people are looking at trying to get money in quickly. That could be from criminals having cannabis factories or from people setting up brothels and looking at a property to earn money.
Right.
Now, in the course of time, like we've said, we've done over 20,000 cases in 13 years. What's happening now is a lot of, and it's happened through letting agents, dare I say it as well. I mean, the highest profile case, there's a lady called Rose Charuka we exposed and we evicted on 2 occasions. And she took over £100,000 from 6 landlords. She's now in prison, paying no rent, you'd be pleased to know, for 4 years. But we've also seen a lot of vulnerable landlords that may be advertised on some portals come along. They've taken some rent in advance. They haven't done the same old question about referencing and whatever. And they think they've got a perfectly good tenant in the property. And then, of course, they get a call from the neighbours that there's 10, 15 people in the property. And what the scams are is that tenant makes out that they're the landlord.
Yeah.
They give fictitious or give tenancy agreements and rent out rooms and put petitions up. And they're just nicking all the rent, not passing it on. And, of course, doing the eviction process, they want it to go on as long as possible because the more money they take, the more money they earn. And they don't pass the rent on to the landlord. And the biggest worry is not just the time, but the damage that's done to the property as well.
Indeed, because of the wear and tear of all those people.
Exactly, and then you get the councils involved because the noise abatement team, and is it an HMO and all that. So we've had to deal with cases like that where we've had to liaise with the councils as well.
I think there's also a slight issue of people that take on a property to sublet with the intention to forward on the rent to the landlord and just to cream off the difference.
Yes.
There's a lot of courses around that teach people how to do that as a way to get into property, but it's not as simple as it sounds, is it?
I think it's messy, and I don't believe in it. I think what you do is, because of course you have letting agents that do guaranteed rent.
Yes.
The problem the landlord has is they lose control of that property and that tenancy. So what happens is, if the money's not passed on by the letting agent who are doing the subletting or the individual, then what they have to do is do the eviction process, but they have to go against the tenant. They can't go against the subtenant. So what I would do is, a matter of course, I'd go straight down to the property, I'd speak to the subtenant, say, do you realise that I'm the landlord? Take ID, take proof of ownership of the property. Do you realise your rent's not being passed on? Because of course they're victims as well.
Yes.
So then it may be a scenario where they have direct contact, try and take over the tenancies if need be, put them all on one agreement, possibly, because it's easy to control rather than separate eviction cases. And that scenario is quite good as well sometimes, because it's not deemed as a criminal act, all right? And the police won't get involved unless there's multiple cases like we had with Rose Chamuka, where I had to get the police involved and I had to get landlords to do witness. I mean, I spent a lot of time doing it, but it eventually came to light and we got justice, you know.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much for sharing those insights.
Yeah.
And also, let's just remind everybody that you do have the free helpline.
Yeah, we have a free helpline for landlords and agents. Yeah.
If they've got any problems, they can just give you a ring and you'll give them the best advice.
Pleasure, definitely.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Paul
thanks,
from
Vanessa.
Landlord Action.
Thank you.